Welcome to the video format of the Entrepreneur Lifestyle Podcast. And if you haven't yet, please do subscribe to our podcast using the link below. And now enjoy this interview. Today, I'm here with Sophie McLean, who has an absolutely amazing story. She was born in Algeria. She's been a war refugee. She's been a CEO. She's inspired 80,000 people around the world. I mean, there's so many ways I could do this intro, but I've got to say, Sophie, I'm so excited to speak to you. Thank you for spending some time with me.
Oh, Ben, thank you for having me. I'm so looking forward to it. I've listened to some of your podcasts, love it. So I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Me too. I know we've had to reschedule a couple of times, but we've made it. It's aligned now. Thank God. So let's just start off by giving the audience perhaps an understanding to who you are and where you've been. As best you can, could you just give them a brief overview of your journey in 60 seconds or less, just to give us an understanding of where you've been and where you are now?
Yeah, can I tell a story? Because that's the best way to understand my path. All right, so I was brought up in Casablanca. Imagine Casablanca, right? All the smell, it's glorious, it's great. I'm 12 years old, I'm in the garden, I'm watching my family sitting down for dinner, and suddenly I have a download. I don't know how, why, I'm not even looking for explanation. I just got 3 messages, clear as you can imagine. First message was, I was being brought up in a cocoon outside of the world, and it was not a reflection of the real world, right? So 12-year-old, I'm going, wow, okay. Second download, you need to go and experience everything there is to experience in the world, from despair to joy. There is everything you need to go and find out. Great. And then everything you will find out is an illusion. You are at a theater. And then the third insight, which was more like a command, was, okay, and then you need to tell everybody about the fact that it's all an illusion, right? So I'm 12-year-old, I run to my parents, I say, I've got the secret of the universe. And I tell them, and they look at me, they say, okay, we have a crazy one on board, right? And that's my nickname to this day, the crazy one, with much, much love, right? But you know, Ben, since that day, I have had this impulse to find out about life and what it is to be a human being. And I have traveled all over the world. I've had all those experiences. It was like fulfilling on that download. I have experienced from despair to joy. I've had many, many experiences, and it is so useful as a teacher, because for me, a teacher is one of the most sacred distinctions you can step in as a human being. And a teacher gives and can only give what they have experienced. Otherwise, it becomes a lecture. And because I've experienced so much and I've had such a full life, I'm able to transmit to my student the fruit of my experiences so they don't have to go through it. And they start where I stop my experience. Do you see what I mean? So that is my life.
Wow, brilliant. I love that you shared that story. So when we start to dive into some of the experiences that you've had that have shaped the way in which you now view the world and the illusions that you've come to become aware of, what are some of the experiences that you've been through that for you hold the biggest lessons that you can impart on the people that you speak to?
All right. Well, I can tell you a little bit like a snapshot, right? So at 16, I learned I got raped, and it was quite traumatic. And I learned that I had a choice to either blame the 3 billion men on the planet, or to just stay with what happened with one man just misbehaving and being violent, and giving a chance and being generous. Right? At 20, I fell in love with somebody that had 4 stepchildren, and they didn't welcome me too much. And I learned acceptance and holding a space for people to be able to go through their own fear, At 24, I lost a child and I learned about loss. At 28, my husband died and I learned about despair and that suffering was optional, not pain, but suffering. At 32, I went around the world because I was desperate. I couldn't put my life together anymore. I got on a boat, crossed the South Pacific, got shipwrecked on Easter Island, and I learned to dance with the universe and the whole of life. And at 33 was my biggest epiphany, where I realized that I was the source of my life and the originator, that whatever I said, I got. That the universal law of you always reap what you sow, I actually just revolutionized my experience of being alive. And it was the last time in my life where I was ever victimized. The victimization of my life totally disappeared from then on.
First of all, thank you for being so open and sharing, some amazing and traumatic and a variety of different experiences that some people would never experience and have happen to them. What I find is fascinating is the perspective that you have on how you can no longer be victimized from that insight that you gained at 33. There will be some people listening to this that will perhaps be thinking, how can you have that perspective when, for example, someone does something to you or is something outside of your control and it happens to you? How can you say that you've manifested that? Well, what are your thoughts if someone was thinking that?
This is the main source of suffering, Ben, right, for human being, is that it so looks real that it is something external to us that has us suffer, right? So if you take, for example, my husband's death, right? So my husband died on honeymoon 5 days after we got married. It was quite something, right? And I had everything, a lot of things that happened to me before that. And not only did I have to deal with the pain of his death, but I became totally victimized, saying, how can that happen to me? I mean, with losing a child, being raped, the whole damn thing. I mean, really, I must be doomed. I mean, I was brought up in a cocoon. That only happened in bad Hollywood movies. That this shouldn't happen to me. So I went on an intense victimization trip. I blamed God, people. I looked at people in the street saying, why are you alive and not my husband? Why did it happen to me? Poor me, blah, 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 right? And then, so when you live inside of the decision that you doomed, right? Obviously, I must have done something really wrong because all that happened to me. I didn't want people to come next to me because in case I brought them bad luck, you understand? I was now a dangerous person. I was doomed, right? So I spent 5 years. It was a total nightmare inside of my decision. And when I was 33, I realized, and that's the epiphany, is that there was a fact, right? There is something that happened, is my husband died. He had a clot to the brain. In 1 second, he was gone. Okay, that's what so. I made up a story that I was doomed. And I always reap what I sow. Right? So the moment I realized that those two, his death and what I made it mean, were not one and the same. It was two very different realms. And that I had a choice about what to say about his death. You see, my husband's death didn't mean he didn't love me, didn't mean God didn't love me, didn't mean I did something wrong in the previous life, didn't mean anything. In fact, my husband dying means that he died. Nothing else. And at that moment, I realized that whatever I said about his death will be what I got. And at that moment, my suffering disappeared forever. I had pain. I missed him, but no suffering. And Ben, it is so logical, right? If you look at our life, the earth doesn't suffer from the earthquake. When a dog loses a leg, you see the dog with 3 legs running as fast as he can to keep up with the other dogs. But you never hear a dog saying, get me a therapist, my life is ruined, right? But
Yes.
we human beings always, always, always live in a narrative. This is the power of language, but it's also the shadow side of language. And if you're not aware of what you say, and you believe what you say and what you think, you shall suffer.
Yes.
Right?
So yeah, I was just going to say there is so much to unpack there, and I love it when you're in that flow and you're going. I'm thinking, my God, I could take this conversation so many different ways, and we knew that to begin with. But one thing that I do want to lean into a little bit, because the way in which you phrased it, I thought was very very new, in that you were living in your decision. And you were living in that space. And what's fascinating is, differentiating between the facts and your interpretation. Now, for a lot of people listening, they may be thinking back into a decision that perhaps they made with a experience that they've had in their life, no matter how traumatic. How is it? And someone will say, well, how long does it get and does it take in order to change that decision? And what would be your thoughts on that for someone that's held on to something for so long? How can they let go of that?
Yeah, that's such a great question. Okay, you got right to the secret. My company is called Access to Awareness. Awareness is the ultimate power, Ben. So, I don't know if you have children, but when you teach a child to cross the street, you tell them, stop, look right, look left, and then make a choice. That's awareness. That is the only thing that is needed. To develop awareness as a habit. You know how life can be so busy, especially if you have a lot of responsibility. You're running a company, you're managing people, you have a family, you need to exercise and eat and sleep and everything. You need to stop. Look right, look left. It doesn't have to take 3 hours. You do that a few minutes a day. And really examine your narrative about what's happening, your reaction about what's happening, and make a choice. That is all it takes. It is so simple. People look at me saying it cannot be so simple. It is simple. If it is complicated, you are in a story. Our mind complicates everything. When you get to the elegance of simplicity, when it is so simple that there is no explanation needed, then the truth got you.
I think that's fascinating, and being able to deal with that simplicity is something that a lot of people struggle with when there's so many different steps that some people feel they have to take, and very often it is very simple. How does someone go about after they have the awareness? So for example, I am aware that I need to take time off, but I don't prioritize it. So I have the awareness that I need to do something, yet my intention and the behavior are misaligned. Now, when something like that happens, how is it that someone can overcome that, where what they want, but their behavior is different?
Okay, you just asked the most brilliant question. Okay, so I want you to imagine. Okay, can I tell another story? Like, can we go on a little story trip?
We can go wherever you like.
Okay. All right. So imagine you and I are a little soul, right? Okay, somewhere, right? And then we come and incarnate in our body. Okay. So you have Ben incarnated in your body, in your family, in your culture. I'm Sophie incarnated in mine. And when you're born, if you look at a baby, right? You don't say, oh, a little perfectionist, oh, a little sense of humor. There is nothing going on. There is no character. There is no identity. That's why we love babies so much. They are just being. Everything is possible for the babies. And very, very quickly, as you acquire language, you start to create a character. What we call an identity, a persona, a personality. Like if you're a hard worker, right? And you can't stop working. And you say, oh, well, that's just who I am. That must be my gene somewhere. I can't stop working. But it's not. It's not in your gene. There is no gene called the hard worker. It is a personality you have created to survive life. And there is an enormous difference between surviving life and being alive. And all of us from a very young age have put together a survival mechanism, an identity, what we call the character. We also call it the ego. And in those famous 80,000 people I led to and worked with then, the ego has a design, and that's what people do not know. Every single person I've worked with, and I worked from China to Canada to Morocco to, where else did I go? India. Every single person went through the same design. There is 4 main moments in everybody's life where you make decision to create another side of your character. There is another design called the destructive side of your ego. And you need to get an education so that you understand how you created your character. The moment you understand the very design of human being, you will be free, because you cannot be free and you cannot have a choice until you actually know what your choice is. Can you imagine if only people knew that you can create and reinvent yourself exactly the way you want? But people don't know, because nobody teaches us at school that our character, our identity, who we think we are, is not who we really are. So that's a way to do it. You just need to just get a very simple education about what it is to be a human being, and then you'll have a choice between surviving and being alive.
So when we look into surviving and being alive, and we move it from a teaching standpoint to those who are, leading organizations, or they are attempting to move people forward, how is it that someone in that space can lead, knowing that everything that they have made up about themselves, right, is an illusion? How is it that they can then lead others? And how is it that you lean into these different identities from a leadership standpoint? Do you craft something that you want to create, and knowing that it's an illusion, that for people to be inspired and follow? How is it that you manage to do that?
Yeah, so a leader, right, is someone that embodies the dream and aspiration of others. Ben, this is my favorite definition about leadership. A leader is so generous for me, because you will accept and choose that responsibility of embodying the aspiration and the dreams of others, right? That will be consistent with yours, but then you will lead them, right? So that's what an entrepreneur, a CEO, a chairman is. And that's the one that do a great job, is that when they take on that responsibility. Now, the great thing about getting an education about your ego is that you can keep what works about your ego, right? So let's say part of your survival mechanism and how you survive life is to be a hard worker. You don't drop the hard worker, but instead of having to work hard because it's on automatic, you choose when to work hard and when to spend time with your family. You have a choice, right? So it's not by disentangling your character and your ego, it's not like you're not going to use it, some of it. You're going to use it, it's not going to use you. So you can already experience the authentic power, right? And as a leader, knowing the very design of human being, when I interact with people, Ben, very quickly, I know how to communicate. I know what to say that they can hear. I know what to say to make a difference, because I can hear the survival mechanism and I can hear who they really are. Now, that is communication, this amazing, profound power to be able to experience what another human being experiences, that will have you choose the language that will make a difference. So you can see it's a skill of a leader to be able to fulfill on what is possible for everyone. You actually then are able to transmit that power to other people.
And when it comes to transmitting that power and being consciously aware of it, and to have that conscious awareness of not just what's happening in yourself and the interpretation that you may be giving, but to actually remove your filter and their filter and consciously be a leader. How do you make that happen? How can someone be a conscious leader in the times we're in right now?
Well, I have, for leaders, I work with the UN, I work with CEOs, right? I have a 10 2-hour session course, right? That takes not even 3 months, where I just literally teach them the very design of human being by working with them, right? So that's all it takes. It is that simple. Then after that, it's practice. If you want muscle, you need to go to the gym. Then after that, you practice awareness. That's it. That's all it takes. It's that simple. I love because people want it to be so mysterious and so complicated and so hard. No. I'm not for hard work. If it's effortless, then I know I'm aligned. If there is too much effort, then I know I'm resisting something. So,
and when it comes to working the muscle and going to the gym and building that muscle, what are some of the practices that you have found most beneficial for yourself in maintaining that muscle and evolving yourself as a spiritual being?
Okay, another simple truth, right? Ben, as human beings, we are designed for happiness. Do you know that? When we're happy, in love, and everything is working well, do you know how much energy we have? Our skin looks good. We sleep well. We can be so generous, right? I mean, when life goes your way and you're well, it's like you're the king of the world. And when we're unhappy and stressed, we don't sleep at night. There is anxiety. You look tired. You are tired, right? So your body tells you and tells all of us that we are designed for happiness. When we are happy, the body works really well. So you need to listen to that, right? So the practice is to learn to not tolerate anything other than comfort in life. And most human beings think that suffering and being uncomfortable and stress and effort is a natural thing to make it in life, to win, to produce results. You have to go through that. No. That's the illusion. No, you will access the space of abundance, the space of the miraculous, the space of love, the space of connection, the space of miraculous results. When you experience that happiness, that joy, that comfort, then you know you align with the universe. You're actually co-creating with the universe. You are dancing with the whole of the symphony of life. So your experience of being alive tells you, I am uncomfortable. I need to stop and see what story, what decision, what interpretation, what hurt, what wound is happening that I'm not comfortable. And then once you see it, you let it go and you're back to comfort and happiness. That's awareness as a habit.
And I think what's fascinating is the way in which you describe that journey to happiness is one of the awareness, because very often when I dive into psychology and we look into the human mind, I said it's built for survival. It's looking for things that are wrong. But what you're representing here, if I'm understanding rightly, is that awareness of detaching from the stories to lead you to what you really want, which is that happiness and that comfort. Because when you're in that place, suddenly you've let go of all the things holding you back. Is that right?
Yeah, but there is two kinds of minds. There is a conscious mind and there is the automatic mind. The automatic mind is the one that is trained for survival, right? So the brain predicts what's going to happen based on a past event, right? We know the brain is a prediction machine. That's how we trained our brain. But there is another mind, Ben, and that's the one that you want to access, the one that created E equal MC squared, the one that got the progress we have in the world, right? There is if you listen to Einstein, I love his writing. He said that he stayed quiet in silence. And he downloaded E equal MC square. And then he spent years explaining and proving it. But he got that conscious mind, that connection to a kind of universal guidance, authentic power. That's the conscious mind. That's the one that is truly visionary. You know, people in our enterprises really look for innovation, and you know, mostly people say you have to be innovative while you have to do everything like everybody else, which is a conundrum by itself, right? Well, if you want to access that space of creativity, you need to understand and experience what the conscious mind is and develop for yourself that connection.
It actually
Then
reminds me,
you'll be a visionary. Yeah.
It reminds me of Thomas Edison, who, when thinking of different inventions, would sit there with two steel balls until he fell asleep and the steel balls would drop. I think it was allowing him to access, once again, unconscious and different levels of the mind, which I think is fascinating. So for those who are enjoying this conversation, so and to be honest, we could go on all day because I think you're fascinating and I love the way in which you share concepts and give and incite your wisdom upon those that are listening. So for those who want a better understanding of kind of yourself, what you have on, are there any free resources that they can have a look at or to engage in to take their next step on that journey?
Yes. They can go to my website, sophiemclean.com, right? And I have a wide range. So I have a free course to give you a test, right? Because you need to experience me as a teacher. There is a master course. This is for people like my UN directors, things that they want privacy. So that's a master course, 10 sessions, one-on-one. There is a group course and there is a self-guided course. So I have covered, you know, I am so committed that people get this education that is so simple that I have covered the whole range of financial, levels and interest. So go to my website. I've explained everything on my website. There is my book. There is a book as well, Ben. I mean, there is everything. So everybody can find what calls for them. And there is a free course.
Love that. And if there was one thing that you wanted to leave our listeners with today, what would be that one thing that you'd want them to take away?
That I would like your listener to get something that I got when my husband died in 1 minute, right? I got at that moment that there is no tomorrow. Everything happens now. You can't, you know, I had my office in the World Trade Center and we lost everything, but we were safe. But I worked a lot with people in the World Trade Center, and all of them said to me, I thought I had time to tell my people that I love them. Okay, so there is an urgency in life. There is no time. You cannot be caught in the illusion of someday, you know, where we will all be seen rich and happy, but just not now. No, the thing I'd like your listener to get, Ben, is that it's right now. Right now, that's all there is, right? So if not now, when? There is not a place called someday that you will get to. That's an illusion. There is not even a place called the past where you can go back to. That's gone. There is the future and the past are an illusion. All there is now. So choose now and take action.
I love that. What a fantastic shout. So I've got to say, it's been an absolute pleasure to interview you today. And once again, I really appreciate the authenticity with which you've shown up. And for everyone listening, do check her out. Like, she's absolutely amazing. I mean, I feel like we're just like scratching on the top of the iceberg here because there's so many levels down that we could go. But I really appreciate you coming on. For everyone listening, make sure to reach out. We'll have all the links below, and we will see you in the next one.
Ben, thank you so much. You make me feel so great, and I enjoyed our conversation.